There is a woman the world does not see. She does not need a man's hand to guide her. She does not need his presence to confirm her worth. She chooses her own silence. She chooses her own strength. People look at her and wonder, isn't she lonely? Isn't she incomplete? But they do not understand. Loneliness is not her enemy. It is her teacher. A woman who lives alone. She wakes in the morning and her peace is untouched. She builds her home with her own hands. She guards her heart with her own wisdom. Her happiness is not borrowed from anyone. It is born inside her. Solitude is not emptiness, it is strength. Many people are afraid of being alone. They think that silence means weakness, that an empty room means an empty heart, that without company, a person must be incomplete, but that is not true. Solitude is not a curse, it is not a punishment, it is not a prison. It is a space, a sacred space, where power is born. When a woman chooses solitude, she chooses to face herself. She chooses to meet her own thoughts without distraction, her own fears without escape, her own dreams without interference. And in that meeting, she becomes stronger than those who are always surrounded by noise. Because strength is not built in the crowd. Strength is built in the quiet moments, when no one is watching, when no one is clapping, when no one is telling you who you should be. A woman who embraces solitude learns the art of listening. Not to gossip, not to empty words, but to her own soul. She hears the whispers that others drown out. She notices the details in life that the world is too busy to see. In her solitude, she gains clarity. She can see who she truly is, what she truly wants, and what path she must walk. Others chase validation. They run to relationships to fill the holes in their hearts. But she understands something different. She knows that the heart is not a hole to be filled. It is a fire to be lit. And solitude is the spark that lights it. People misunderstand solitude because they confuse it with loneliness. Loneliness is when you crave someone's presence and they are not there. Solitude is when you have your own presence and you realize it is enough. This difference is everything. Loneliness drains you, solitude builds you. Loneliness makes you weak, solitude makes you powerful. And the woman who lives in her solitude is not waiting for someone to rescue her. She is rescuing herself every day. She is lifting herself up. She is protecting her peace. She is building her strength. In a world that constantly tells women they need a man to be whole, to be safe, to be valuable, the woman who chooses solitude is an act of rebellion. She is saying, I am enough. She is saying, I am not afraid of silence. She is saying, my worth does not come from another's love. It comes from the love I give myself. This is strength the world does not easily understand, because it cannot be bought, it cannot be faked, it cannot be given from the outside. It is born within. Solitude teaches patience. It teaches endurance. It teaches how to stand tall when no one stands beside you. It teaches a woman how to face storms without running for shelter in another's arms. It teaches her that her tears do not make her fragile, they make her real. It teaches her that peace is not found in someone else's smile, but in her own reflection when she looks into the mirror and sees a woman who does not need to beg for love, because she already carries it inside. In solitude, she learns to walk into a room and not seek approval. She learns to sit in her home and not crave company. She learns to wake up and not wait for a message or a call to make her day feel complete. She learns to give herself everything she once thought she needed from others. That is strength. That is power. That is what solitude truly means. A woman's worth is not measured by a man's presence. From the beginning, society has written rules for her, telling her that she is only valuable if someone chooses her, if someone desires her, if someone holds her hand and gives her a name. The world has built cages made of traditions and expectations, whispering to women that without a man, they are incomplete. But that is not truth. That is conditioning. A woman's worth is not a reflection of someone else's approval. It is the reflection of her own soul, her own actions, her own choices. To tie her value to a man's presence is to deny the fire that already burns inside her. When a woman learns this, she begins to stand differently. She no longer asks, "Am I enough for him?" She asks, "Is he enough for me?" And eventually, she asks something even deeper, "Am I enough for myself?" That question is the doorway to freedom. Because the moment a woman sees her worth as independent, unshakable, untouched by the presence or absence of a man, she steps into her real power. Her heart becomes her own. Her mind becomes her own. Her body, her choices, her future, no longer chained to anyone else's validation. The presence of a man can add love, can add joy, can add companionship, but it cannot add worth. Worth is not a gift. Worth is not a title. Worth is not something that appears the day someone says, "I love you." Worth is eternal. Worth was there the day she was born, the day she took her first breath, the day she opened her eyes to the world. Her worth is not measured by rings on her finger, by the number of men who admired her, by the attention she receives. Her worth is measured by the strength of her character, the depth of her heart, the fire of her spirit. There are women who stay in relationships that break them because they have been taught to believe that having a man is better than having none. They carry the weight of disrespect, betrayal, and neglect, all because they are afraid that walking alone means they have failed. But the truth is the opposite. Walking alone is not failure. Staying in chains is. A woman who has the courage to walk alone proves that her worth is not for sale, not negotiable, not dependent on anyone else's presence. She chooses herself over anything that tries to diminish her. Every time a woman chooses self-respect over desperation, she declares her independence. Every time she looks in the mirror and refuses to let someone else define her, she grows stronger. Every time she walks away from something toxic, she proves that her value cannot be reduced. She learns that she is not an accessory to someone else's life. She is the main story. She is not someone's shadow. She is her own light. Society glorifies the woman who is chosen, but the real glory belongs to the woman who chooses herself. The one who says, "I do not need your presence to prove I matter." The one who says, "I do not need your love to know that I am lovable." The one who says, "I do not need your hand to walk my path," because she knows the truth. Her worth is not measured by who is beside her, but by who she becomes when she stands alone. Living alone builds clarity, discipline, and self-respect. When a woman decides to live alone, she steps into a world where every choice belongs to her. There is no one to hide behind, no one to blame, no one to lean on for every small decision. In that space, clarity begins to grow. She starts to see what truly matters to her. The noise of outside opinions grows quieter, and the voice within becomes louder. She learns to listen to herself, to trust herself, to separate what is real from what is an illusion. Living alone strips away the distractions, the endless cycle of seeking approval, the constant presence of someone else's energy that can cloud her mind. In her solitude, her vision sharpens, and she sees her life with new eyes. Clarity is a gift that many never experience because they are always surrounded by the clutter of others' expectations. But the woman who lives alone begins to see the truth. She sees what kind of life she truly wants to build. She sees the habits that either serve her or destroy her. She sees the relationships that uplift her and the ones that drain her. She sees her own patterns, her own strengths, her own weaknesses without distortion. This clarity is not always comfortable. It forces her to confront herself. It forces her to admit where she has been wrong, where she has been careless, where she has been blind. But this confrontation is what builds growth, and growth builds power. With clarity comes discipline. Living alone means no one will force her to wake up early. No one will remind her to clean her home. No one will push her to pursue her goals. It is her responsibility to hold herself accountable. And at first, discipline feels like a burden. It feels heavy to carry everything on her own shoulders. But over time, it becomes a source of pride. She begins to realize that every small act of discipline is an act of self-love. Cooking her own meals, paying her own bills, organizing her own space. These are not just tasks, they are declarations of independence. Every time she does what needs to be done, without waiting for someone else to do it, she proves her strength. Discipline also teaches her consistency. Living alone does not allow her the luxury of laziness. If she neglects her responsibilities, no one will step in to save her. This reality sharpens her character. It builds resilience. It builds determination. She learns to push herself, to do the hard things, to overcome the temptation of comfort. And in this process, she realizes that discipline is not punishment. Discipline is freedom. It gives her control over her own life. It gives her the ability to shape her future without depending on anyone. As clarity and discipline grow, something even more powerful is born: self-respect. A woman who lives alone learns to respect herself in ways she never imagined. She realizes that she is capable. She realizes that she can survive, that she can thrive, that she can stand tall without anyone holding her up. Her solitude becomes proof of her strength. She no longer tolerates disrespect from others because she knows her own value. She no longer settles for less because she has built a life for herself. She no longer fears being alone because she has turned solitude into her ally. Self-respect is not something that can be given by others. It is built through actions, through choices, through the way a woman treats herself when no one is watching. Living alone gives her the chance to build this respect from the ground up. She learns to speak kindly to herself. She learns to set boundaries. She learns to say no when something threatens her peace. And with each boundary, with each act of self-care, with each step she takes alone, her respect for herself grows stronger. Living alone is not just about independence. It is about transformation. It clears her mind, sharpens her habits, and elevates her spirit. It builds a foundation so solid that no one can shake it. It makes her a woman who does not beg for love, who does not fear solitude, who does not measure her worth by another's presence. It makes her a woman of clarity, discipline, and self-respect, a woman who knows who she is and refuses to be anything less. Freedom from boyfriends is freedom from emotional games. Too often, relationships become arenas where women are expected to fight for attention, loyalty, and validation. Instead of love being a sanctuary, it turns into a battlefield of insecurity, silence, and unspoken rules. When a woman chooses not to have boyfriends, she is not rejecting love itself. She is rejecting the games that so often come disguised as love. She frees herself from the endless waiting, from the texts that never come, from the promises that are spoken but never kept. She frees herself from the cycle of being lifted up one day and ignored the next. That freedom is not emptiness, it is a release. It is a return to her own center, to her own peace. Emotional games drain energy in ways people rarely admit. The constant wondering of where she stands, the silent competitions with other women, the subtle manipulations that twist her heart. These things weaken her spirit. But when she lives without boyfriends, she cuts the strings of that puppet show. She no longer measures her worth by how someone treats her in a moment of convenience. She no longer allows her peace to be disturbed by someone else's indecision. She walks away from the roller coaster of highs and lows and chooses the steady ground of her own self-respect. In this freedom, her time becomes her own. She no longer spends hours analyzing words, replaying conversations, or waiting for messages that may never come. Instead, she invests that energy into herself, into her growth, her passions, her dreams. She discovers how much of her life can be transformed when it is not constantly revolving around the unpredictable presence of a boyfriend. She sees how much stronger, clearer, and calmer her days become when her emotions are not tied to another's actions. This freedom also teaches her the power of boundaries. Without boyfriends, she is no longer pressured to compromise her values for the sake of keeping someone interested. She does not bend herself into shapes that please others while breaking her own spirit. She does not stay silent when something hurts her, fearing abandonment. She does not accept less than what she deserves. Instead, she defines her own standards, her own rules, her own limits. This is not bitterness, it is wisdom. It is the wisdom that comes from knowing that her peace is worth more than temporary affection, that her time is worth more than empty promises, and that her love is too sacred to be wasted on games. Freedom from emotional games is not the absence of love. It is the preparation for true love, because only when a woman frees herself from the traps of manipulation and dependency can she experience love that is pure, equal, and respectful. Without boyfriends, she learns to be whole on her own. And when she is whole, she no longer accepts love that is half-hearted. She no longer tolerates relationships that are built on lies. She no longer falls for words without action. She learns to demand alignment between what a man says and what he does, and until she sees it, she is not afraid to walk alone. This freedom strengthens her emotional intelligence. She learns to see through the masks people wear, to recognize patterns of manipulation, to sense when love is real and when it is only a performance. She becomes wiser, sharper, more discerning, and this wisdom protects her. It keeps her from falling into traps that once consumed her. It allows her to stand tall and unshaken, no matter who tries to play games with her heart. A woman free from boyfriends is a woman who reclaims her power. She takes back her time, her peace, her energy, her spirit. She is no longer a pawn in someone else's game. She is the queen of her own life, moving with intention, living with clarity, and holding her crown high. Choosing yourself makes you unbreakable. The world constantly tells women to put others first, to sacrifice themselves in the name of love, family, or acceptance. From a young age, they are taught that their happiness must be tied to the happiness of those around them, that their worth comes from how much they give, how much they endure, how much they bend. But when a woman decides to choose herself, everything changes. She shifts the direction of her life from living for others to living for her truth. This decision may not be easy, but it is the foundation of unshakable strength. Because when you choose yourself, you stop relying on someone else to validate you, to complete you, or to save you. You become your own source of fulfillment, your own protector, your own healer. Choosing yourself means learning to listen to the voice within, the voice that society often teaches you to silence. It means asking yourself what you need, what you desire, what you deserve, and then honoring those answers without apology. It is not selfishness. It is survival. It is wisdom. It is power. When a woman ignores her own needs to constantly serve others, she empties herself until there is nothing left. But when she chooses herself, she protects her energy. She guards her heart. She builds a foundation that cannot be shaken by disappointment or betrayal. This choice also builds resilience. Life will always bring storms, heartbreaks, and losses, but when a woman chooses herself, she faces those storms differently. She does not collapse when someone leaves, because she never abandoned herself. She does not shatter when someone betrays her, because her trust was never placed entirely outside of her. She does not fear solitude, because she has already made peace with her own company. This resilience is what makes her unbreakable. She can bend, she can hurt, she can fall, but she will always rise again, stronger than before. Choosing yourself also means redefining love. Many women are taught to accept love in whatever form it comes, even if it is incomplete, inconsistent, or painful. But the woman who chooses herself learns to walk away from love that costs her peace. She realizes that love is not supposed to destroy her, silence her, or diminish her. She understands that real love begins with the love she gives herself. Once she respects herself deeply, she no longer tolerates relationships that are shallow or toxic. She becomes unbreakable because she refuses to be broken down by the wrong kind of love. Discipline becomes a natural part of this journey. Choosing yourself means holding yourself accountable, even when it is hard. It means creating boundaries, saying no when necessary, and standing firm in your decisions. It means refusing to shrink to make others comfortable. This kind of discipline builds character, and character builds unshakable strength. The woman who chooses herself does not live by the approval of others. She does not adjust her worth depending on who comes or goes. She knows who she is, and she stands in that truth, no matter what. When you choose yourself, you reclaim control of your time, your dreams, your life. You stop living as a supporting character in someone else's story, and you begin to write your own. You no longer waste energy chasing those who do not value you or pleasing those who would never be satisfied. Instead, you invest in your growth, in your healing, in your purpose. And with each step, you build a strength that cannot be taken away. Unbreakable women are not born by chance. They are built in the moments they decide that their well-being matters. They are built when they choose to honor themselves instead of sacrificing themselves. They are built when they realize that their power does not come from being chosen by someone else, but from choosing themselves fully, fearlessly, and unapologetically. True power is born when a woman completes herself. From the very beginning, she is told that her life is incomplete without a partner, that her value lies in being someone's choice, someone's companion, someone's possession. She is made to believe that she is half of something, waiting for the other half to make her whole. But the moment she breaks free from this illusion, she discovers the deepest truth. She was never half, she was always whole. The power that rises within her when she embraces this truth is not ordinary. It is unshakable, untouchable, undeniable. Completing herself means no longer searching for validation in the eyes of others. It means she no longer waits for someone to tell her she is beautiful, worthy, or enough. She looks at her own reflection and knows it. She does not need to perform for approval. She does not need to beg for attention. She does not need to shrink to be accepted. She carries her own validation, and that makes her free. The power of self-completion lies in the independence it gives. She does not depend on anyone else to define her, because she has already defined herself. When a woman completes herself, she reclaims every part of her life that she once gave away. She takes back her time, because she no longer spends it waiting for someone who may or may not show up. She takes back her emotions, because she no longer lets them rise and fall according to another's moods. She takes back her dreams, because she no longer sacrifices them to fit into someone else's plans. This reclamation of self is what makes her powerful. She is no longer controlled by promises, excuses, or illusions. She is led only by her own vision. Self-completion also brings peace. When a woman believes she needs another to feel whole, she is always restless, always searching, always longing. But when she realizes that everything she needs is already within her, she stops chasing and starts living. Her peace is no longer fragile, no longer dependent on how others treat her. She is grounded in herself. She can sit in silence without fear. She can walk alone without shame. She can build her future without hesitation. That peace becomes her shield, protecting her from the chaos of the world. In completing herself, she also finds courage. The courage to walk away from what does not serve her. The courage to set standards and stand by them. The courage to speak her truth without trembling. This courage makes her unmovable, because she is no longer seeking approval. She is no longer afraid of being abandoned. She is no longer worried about rejection. She knows that she cannot be truly rejected when she has already accepted herself. A completed woman is also untempted by the games that once held her. She is not swayed by sweet words without action. She is not blinded by temporary affection. She is not fooled by shallow attention. She sees clearly because her heart is not desperate. Her completeness protects her from falling into traps, because she no longer confuses need with love. She does not need anyone to fill her emptiness, because there is no emptiness left. True power reveals itself when she walks into the world whole. She does not beg, she does not chase, she does not settle. She attracts respect because she respects herself. She attracts strength because she carries strength. She attracts love because she has already found love within. And whether she is alone or with someone, her foundation remains unshaken. The world cannot break a woman who has completed herself, because everything she was told to seek outside, she has already found within. A woman who chooses solitude, who refuses to measure her worth by a man's presence, who builds clarity, discipline, and self-respect through living alone, who frees herself from emotional games, who chooses herself above all, and who completes herself from within. Such a woman is unstoppable. She is not fragile, she is not lacking, she is not waiting to be saved. She is whole, she is powerful. She is the living proof that a woman does not need anyone to validate her existence, because her existence itself is validation enough. Her power does not come from who stands beside her, but from the fact that she can stand alone and still shine.